Welcome to South Bend, Indiana, where morning sunshine has made it a gorgeous afternoon for some men's lacrosse, and it's a good one. Number 3 Notre Dame, with Final Four aspirations, welcomes in the Cleveland State Vikings to Arlotta Stadium. Hi, everybody. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with us, alongside Brian Benedict. Patrick Hartnett here with you. And Brian, one game into the season, and this Notre Dame team looked dangerous in their season opener versus Marquette.
They did, especially on the offensive front. 11 different goal scorers, 9 goals in the first quarter. I expect them to have another quick start here today.
And this Notre Dame team is on a mission this year when you look at a season ago. 8-4 overall, including rattling off their 6 straight games to close the season. But they came up just a bit short of the NCAA tournament.
And once that team found their rhythm last year, they were arguably one of the best teams in the country. With 8 of their top 10 goal scorers returning for this season, this is going to be a team to definitely watch out for to the end of this year.
And on the other side, Cleveland State 3-10 overall a season ago, but it was their first season ever in a conference. They joined the ASUN, and a lot of young players and a lot of close losses for Coach Sherman.
And some of those close losses came in the ASUN. Combine that with the younger team still looking to play together and find their rhythm. A game like last week against Ohio State showed the ability and the potential that they have for the future of this program.
And one of those young stars, Gannon Matthews, now in his sophomore season, the reigning ASUN Freshman of the Year. He really excels in the midfield.
And his game is based on speed and the ability to score from anywhere. Last week we saw him finish on the crease, but we can also see him score from downtown and on the run. The Vikings will be leaning on him today.
And for Notre Dame, one of the biggest question marks entering this season is who would be that third attackman alongside Chris and Pat Kavanagh. And if the season opener is any indication, I think Coach Corrigan found his answer.
Well, he already has tied his 2022 season stats with 5 goals and 1 assist just in game 1 on Wednesday. He's a force on the crease. He constantly moves and has no problem finishing in tight spaces.
Ricciardelli, part of that attack with Chris and Pat Kavanagh. A Notre Dame offense that returns a lot of scores from a year ago, including their top 4 point getters. And they're looking to make some noise this season. Came in as preseason number 5 all the way up to number 3 with some teams across the country losing. And away we go from Arlotta Stadium. Opening faceoff controlled by Will Lynch and the Fighting Irish.
And Patrick, Notre Dame won 8 of their first 12 faceoffs in the first quarter against Marquette. And Cleveland State also struggled against Ohio State in their faceoff game early on. So that's something that the Vikings want to focus on, really maintaining and controlling the pace of that game.
Will Lynch, sophomore, now really the main faceoff man for Notre Dame, coming off, as you mentioned, a really good opener against Marquette. Went 16 for 26 from the X. Here's the first look at Notre Dame's offense inside. A shot comes. It's fired a bit high from the stick of Quinn McCahon. Possession will stay with the Irish. There's Bryce Walker. Here's Eric Dobson. Preseason All-ACC selection for Coach Corrigan. Off to McCahon. There's the shot, and it's fired. Back of the net. Bryce Walker starts the scoring.
This Notre Dame offense knows how to move the ball around, even if it's just game 2. Here you see the ball rotate, and Walker eventually receives it. And without having a defender really contesting him, his hands are free, and he buries it low.
Bryce Walker, junior out of Austin, Texas, coming off a 2-goal performance the other day against Marquette. Second faceoff was controlled by the Vikings for a second, but Will Lynch didn't give up on the play, able to secure it for his team. This is the Notre Dame offense that poured in 21 goals in that season opener against Marquette. And really able to spread the wealth all around the field. You look at it, 11 different goal scorers for the Irish. Here's Walker. Briefly looked for Chris Kavanagh inside. Now it's reversed. Reilly Gray has it. Gives it off. Second shot comes. And it's missed wide by Jack Simmons. Here's Pat Kavanagh. Wears number 51 in white for Notre Dame. Now Chris Kavanagh with it behind the cage. Spin move inside. It's blocked. Tremendous effort in net. That's Cameron Logan, the senior stopper for Cleveland State, stepping up to the challenge there.
And Kavanagh had a great move to the net. He put his defender behind him. But Logan, he's an active player. We'll see him move around a fair amount. He's aggressive. He got back in the net and made that save.
Now here's our first look at this Cleveland State offense. They're coming off a 12-goal performance in their opener against Ohio State. That was a game they ended up dropping 19-12. But it was a game they got off to a slow start, and then the second half really turned it on offensively with 10 goals. Pass out of the reach of Amiri Austin. Came from Brendan Sigurdson, number 16, one of the leading goal scorers on this Cleveland State team.
You mentioned their second half from last week. He had a hat trick against the Buckeyes in that second half. Leading goal scorer for them, the lefty attackman.
And a missile comes from Joe DeDontis. In cage today for Notre Dame, the senior steady goalkeeper Liam Entenmann, part of the preseason first-team All-American selection. Looking to really have a superb senior year and hopefully make a deep run for this Notre Dame team. But he's been the guy pretty much for the last 2 years, as that's a good opening start for Notre Dame's defense. They're able to force Cleveland State and keep them off the board.
And not only is Entenmann a big body in net, but he does a phenomenal job keeping his eye on the ball and watching it from start to finish when those shots come. He's a leader as well as he's continuing to grow as a junior.
Here comes Entenmann creeping out of the net a little bit. As pass is fired up ahead, but it's dropped by Ricciardelli. He's got to fight for the repossession, able to gather it. Here comes Eric Dobson, the lefty slings it. And a big stop in net for Logan. That's his second save already. Less than 5 minutes into this one. And you look at Cameron Logan for Cleveland State. He's now in his senior season. Last season was his first season with the Vikings. Came over from Hartford. But he was the guy in net all season long last year. Starter in 13 games. Made double-digit saves in 10 of them. And he's a big frame. You look at him, he's 6'5", listed around 235 as well. Not a force to be reckoned with for sure, and the Notre Dame offense going to have their hands full today.
They will, and actually both goalies now bigger in net. But having 2 saves already for Logan, especially last week, having Ohio State scoring 10 goals on him, you need that start as a goalie. You want to get in that rhythm of stopping the ball and build that confidence.
Here's Ian McKissick, senior out of Petaluma, California. Inside, here's a look, and it's in the back of the net. Ryan Haigh, leading goal scorer from a season ago, picks up where he left off.
Vikings tying up the game, and they're doing it with teamwork. Haigh is moving his feet from the crease. Receives a pass, and as he's going away from the net, it's tough when you're going away from the net to finish across your body. But it doesn't matter. He showed why he's the leading scorer from a season ago and ties this game up.
You mentioned a season ago, Ryan Haigh, he's a special talent. 32 goals last year. That set a program record for the Vikings in the first game versus Ohio State this year. Only had 1 goal on 5 shots. Not really his standard, but strikes early and gets Cleveland State on the board against the Irish. Not to mention Ryan Haigh heading to the National Lacrosse League next season. He was drafted by the New York Riptide last fall. 72nd overall pick. Comes all the way from Toronto, Ontario. And he's been one of those leaders for years now with this Cleveland State program. Inside, Ricciardelli nearly had a wide open net, but he couldn't corral the pass from Bryce Walker. Great move to split 2 defenders from Austin, and now he has it in the offensive zone for the Vikings.
And it looks like a flag is down across the field. So the Vikings will look for a shot here, but knowing that they'll maintain possession, about to go man up.
Here's Austin, lets it rip. Looks like Entenmann might have gotten a piece of it. The shot clock will reset to 60. This is the 3rd meeting all time between these 2 Midwestern programs. Notre Dame, they've been dominant in the series so far, holding the 2-0 lead. Last meeting came just about 2 years ago, back on March 20th, 2021. Irish took that contest 19-5. Shot from Haigh, kind of lost it, but it'll stay with the Vikings.
And when we spoke with Coach German, he mentioned he wants to get some of the top teams in the nation early on in the year. And doing that again with Notre Dame this year, Ohio State last week. This program wants to continue to make a statement of their potential and what they can do.
Yeah, we mentioned this program. Last season was their first ever in a conference, joined the Atlantic Sun. And while they were winless, definitely made some noise, had some close games. Here's Kavanagh. And it's redirected in net from Logan. So far, Cam Logan's playing tough between the pipes for the Vikings.
And that's a difficult save when the game is in transition and it's unsettled. But he still was able to get down low, make the stop, and keep it a tied game.
Good move from McKissick. Able to get by Nick Harris. And it's poked away. A good defensive battle right now for Notre Dame. That's Chris Fake. And he wins it for the Irish. Chris Fake, grad transfer from Yale. One of the best defensemen in the country. He's a 4-time All-American. Coming off a 3rd-team All-American selection a year ago over at Yale. And now joined the Irish in the offseason and already having an impact on the defensive end both today and also in the season opener. Had 2 caused turnovers. There's a flag down at the far side of the field as Notre Dame has about 45 seconds here. Here's McCahon, blows by his defender, but it's knocked out from behind. That was Amiri Austin on the defensive end. Inside, Ricciardelli fires off a shot. And once again, Logan doesn't let it get past him.
Going back to that check a moment ago from Austin, as an offensive midi, being able to make a check like that, go behind the offensive guy's back, that's impressive, playing both sides of the game. But now Notre Dame being man up, they get an opportunity to be up by 1.
Yeah, and this is a Notre Dame team that's dangerous on the man-up attack. A season ago, they ranked number 1 in the country when it came to efficiency on the man-up. Here's Kavanagh, rips a flamethrower, but once again, Logan able to get his body in front of it. Impressive start so far through these first 10 minutes for Cameron Logan.
You really can't picture a better start for Logan. The amount of shots that are being fired at him on net and in good placements, he's just tracking the ball well.
We mentioned Notre Dame, 8-4 a season ago, just came up short of the NCAA tournament despite being named co-champions of the ACC along with Virginia. So now 7 straight wins for Notre Dame dating back to last season. That's the most out of any Division I program actively across the country. Shot comes, it's in the back of the net, but it's quickly waved off by the official. That was Gannon Matthews who got to the rack, but won't count for Cleveland State.
Matthews barely stepped in the crease before putting that in. He's athletic. He's able to make those moves. And I'm sure we're going to see more of that today.
Here comes Reilly Gray, senior midi at a point. Look out, New York. And here's the shot now from Jalen Seymour. Oh, what a pass from Chris Kavanagh. And it's finished off by Reilly Gray. You can't ask for a better assist. And with that, we'll head to a quick break. So far from Arlotta Stadium, it's Notre Dame out to a 2-1 lead over the Vikings from Cleveland State. Stick with us from South Bend. From Arlotta Stadium, it's Notre Dame with the early 2-1 lead over Cleveland State. And right before we went to break, Chris Kavanagh, he was on cleanup duty right there and then decided, let me get fancy with the pass over to Reilly Gray.
Well, he's a monster on those ground balls, and as soon as he picks that one up, though, the awareness to see Gray deliver that pass behind the back for Gray on the doorstep is unreal.
Yeah, whenever you watch the Kavanaghs play, you know a highlight reel play is coming your way, and that time it's Chris, usually Pat Kavanagh, the one who's known for the plays like that, but Chris Kavanagh learning from his older brother and inheriting some of those spectacular finishes. That one, the assist to Reilly Gray, able to put Notre Dame up top. They're up 2-1 now. That one lost by Lane Miller, and Ricciardelli picks it up, and now Notre Dame wants to move. Here's Kavanagh, dishes inside to his brother. Pat Kavanagh behind the back. Are you kidding me?
Another feed from Chris on the crease. This time Pat gets it, goes around the world, and one with the flag. That duo together, when they are able to connect, it's lethal.
They say brothers get jealous of each other. I think that might have been the case there. Pat taking a playbook out of Chris we just saw a minute ago. That one good for Notre Dame's third goal in this first quarter. And Notre Dame able to capitalize off the turnover in Cleveland State's defensive zone. Lane Miller lost it. Ricciardelli picked it up. And then a 1-2 pass and in the back and then off the stick of Pat Kavanagh. Here's Notre Dame. They want to make it 2 in a row, and it's Chris Kavanagh. Rips it in the back of the net. Didn't even have time to take a break right there, and the Kavanagh's back on the attack for the Irish.
This is why Notre Dame's offense is dangerous, especially the Kavanagh brothers. Now we switch it up. Pat with the feed to Chris. He goes underhand. And that just shows, even with Cleveland State having a strong start, 3 goals can come just like that for the Irish.
Yeah, you look away for a moment, and all of a sudden the scoreboard completely different. And that's what makes this Notre Dame offense so lethal. And what a show we're getting in this first quarter from the Kavanaghs. Chris Kavanagh with 2 goals. Pat Kavanagh added a score as well. So Chris Kavanagh now up to 7 goals on the season. He had 5 goals, 2 assists in the opener. And then Pat, that goal he scored was actually his first on the season. He was kept scoreless in terms of goals in the opener, but did have 6 assists for the Irish. Here's Cleveland State looking for an answer now. It's in the hands of Andrew Boniface, being guarded closely by Harris. Boniface trying to curl around the cage. He lost it. It was poked out by Fake once again. And finally the long stick of Chris Conlon comes up with it.
Already we've seen both Fake and Conlon showing how they can cause those turnovers, getting on attackmen's hands, scooping up the ground ball, getting the ball going the other way.
Here's Chris Kavanagh showing some patience behind the cage. Logan almost came out to meet him, but able to get back to his spot. Off the second chance, that was Brian Tevlin. You see Cameron Logan not afraid to step out in a net. We talked to Coach German about him, and he said that's one of his trademarks. He does love to, move around net, really be active, and sometimes to his own fault, but able to make a lot of plays when he comes out of the net, and that time it worked out for him well.
As a coach, you love to see the drive and the ambition from a goalie, but as you mentioned, Patrick, and as Coach shared, want to make sure it's contained and balanced and doing it at the right moments.
Dobson muscles his way in, puts it on the bounce. And that's 2 in a row for Logan, settling back into net after Notre Dame had a flurry of 3 goals. And we get a timeout now from Coach German and Cleveland State. We'll stay right here. So just under a minute and a half left in this first quarter, Brian. And at first it was Cameron Logan really putting the doors shut on this Notre Dame offense. But then Notre Dame's offense getting going, and you look at the Kavanaghs really having an impact on this one.
They are, but Logan has 8 saves in the first quarter. So he is starting strong. It's just the amount of shots that are coming towards him, 17 by this 3-headed monster right here. This Notre Dame attack a few days ago against Marquette, really worked together, both goals and assists-wise, spread the love, and then today off to a quick start, showing they don't need much to start separating the game.
Yeah, you look at the numbers from these 3 players for Notre Dame, making history in that season opener against Marquette. It was the first time since 2000 that 3 or more players on the Irish had 6 or more points in a single game together. And really, Chris Kavanagh and Jeffery Ricciardelli stole the show with 5 goals, but you got to give credit to Pat Kavanagh. Really sat back, rode that one out, and added 6 assists.
His vision is on another level. Arguably one of the best in the country of seeing his teammates delivering the ball. But one thing about this Notre Dame attack, they're not a ton of big guys. I believe they're all under 6 foot. And when you're looking at attack, normally you have 1 or 2 to get up there to spread out how the strategy is of one guy being a little bit bigger, going to his body when he dodges. But for this Irish attack, does not matter so far. They're showing that they can compete.
Absolutely. Pat Kavanagh back on the Tewaaraton watch list for this season, not to mention a preseason All-American second-team selection as well. Has become one of the best players in college lacrosse, and now in his senior season, he's got big ambitions for this Fighting Irish team. We mentioned preseason number 5 for head coach Corrigan and his squad, now up to number 3 in the country. They're looking to make waves, not only in the ACC, but the NCAA at large. So following the timeout, it'll be Cleveland State taking over. Here's Joe Dodonitis. Now Amiri Austin has it. One of those young players for Cleveland State that had a breakout season as a freshman a year ago. Had him on the ASUN all-freshman team. Dodonitis lost it off the bounce, and it's picked up quickly by the Irish. Ross Bergmaster has it. And now Notre Dame wants to run in transition. Slicing down the middle. It's put in the back of the net from Ben Ramsey. Ramsey makes it 5-1 Notre Dame.
Starts with the turnover on the defensive end. And this Irish attack shows the transition game. This time there was patience for Ben Ramsey to cut down the middle with no one on him and one-on-one with the goalie like that. Goalie really does not have much of a chance, especially with that placement on far side.
Ramsey streaking right down Broadway, and the assist to Pat Kavanagh, able to find him. That's good for Ben Ramsey's first career goal in an Irish uniform. Now in his sophomore season, the midfielder out of Palo Alto, California, spends a lot of time at the short stick defensive mid position for the Irish, but also can have an impact in transition, as we just saw. Off the pass, Boniface lost it. Had a pretty good look at the net, but unable to get a shot off. And now with 3 seconds, Cleveland State has to move off the reset, and they won't be able to get the shot off. So through 1 quarter of play, it's Notre Dame's offense getting hot late, and it has the Irish up to a 5-1 lead. Notre Dame dominating the face-off and turning it into easy offense. 5-1 Irish from Arlotta Stadium in South Bend. As here we go from the X, second quarter underway. Face-off won by Lynch and Notre Dame. Here's Bryce Walker. Over to Eric Dobson. Dobson quiet in that first quarter. Now Chris Kavanagh has it, and on the shot it got poked away. Really good play on the defensive end from Robbie Branzaskis. Lost it, but Cleveland State recovered, but it'll be a violation as we'll head over to the Irish now.
And Patrick, I was about to mention, for Cleveland State, getting a defensive stop to start the second quarter is key, but they want to start slowing the game down and really playing at their own pace and control it. You know, first quarter's over. Now it's about maintaining possession, getting good looks, and keeping the ball away from this lethal Irish attack.
Cleveland State looking to regain their mojo offensively. Their first goal was scored at around the 9.5-minute mark in that first quarter by Ryan Haigh. But they'll need to stop here on the defensive end. Pat Kavanagh looking to regain possession. Now Gray has it. Tevlin. Kavanagh. Great passing. Everybody on Notre Dame getting a touch here. Now Chris Kavanagh has it behind the cage. Tried to curl around and rip off a shot, but it was blocked by Branzaskis. There's number 22, Gannon Matthews with a touch. Matthews unable to put up a shot in that first quarter. One of the focal points Notre Dame had defensively coming into this game. Matthews. Now Sigurdson has it. Austin, great spin move, puts it up, but unable to finish it off.
And even with that shot not going in, this is a possession that the Vikings needed, slowing it down, using the full shot clock, and getting a good look.
Now here's Matthews, ends up on the deck. It looks like Cleveland State will still have it.
And for Notre Dame's defense, you did a nice job playing effectively, not having a goal scored. And then that's just a mental error there. Ball was going to go the other way, was going to be on the offensive side, but stays right here with Cleveland State.
And Cleveland State able to convert it into a goal. Gavin held. Draws one more for Cleveland State. It's now 5-2.
Held now adds his name to the stat sheet on the goal column. Gets the feed from his teammate, tucks his stick, and from there just puts it top shelf by Entenmann.
And Gavin held, now in his junior season, comes from New Freedom, Pennsylvania, looking to have an expanded role on the attack for head coach German. He's coming off a year where he started 3 of 12 games. Had 14 points on the season, but this year expected to take on an even bigger load as part of this attack for the Vikings. Fight for possession in the circle, and Cleveland State comes away with it. That was Robbie Stewart on the faceoff. He's a freshman on this Vikings team, and he really impressed in his collegiate debut against Ohio State. He went 5 of 7 on faceoffs against one of the best face-off units you'll find in the country. And we spoke to head coach German about the impact Robbie Stewart can have this season, and he's as talented as they get for a freshman when it comes to the X.
And that's one thing the Vikings are doing today, is winning at that face-off X, keeping that game close, and a nice win from a momentum standpoint after a goal.
Here's Ian McKissick being forced away by McCahon. He's able to get a shot off, but it's saved in net from Entenmann. Here's Bryce Walker. We know he can score, and there it is. A launcher from Bryce Walker ends up in the back of the net, and Notre Dame gets back on top. They're up 6-2 now.
The Irish with the answer, this time coming from Walker. He throws a quick little head fake to start, decides to hold on to the ball, and with a short stick on him, just buries it.
Second goal of the day for Walker. Fourth on this young season. And he's really been impressive so far. When we spoke with head coach Corrigan, he said Bryce Walker, he's one of those juniors expecting to break out this year and take on an expanded role. Both in the attack and the midfield, kind of switches between those two positions for the Irish.
When you have guys on the team that can do that, go from attack to midi effortlessly, they have so much depth, and it makes it just dangerous to play against them. And sometimes the scheme, when you're trying to prepare for them, is difficult as well.
Here's Dobson. Tried to work inside to Tevlin. It was lost. Cleveland State comes up with it, but there is a flag down.
Neither team has scored on extra man yet today. Notre Dame getting a second chance. And we talked about from last year too, Patrick, #1 in the nation. A lot of the same returners here. We know that they're able to really produce.
Well, they'll have 30 seconds here in the man up. Dobson lets it fly, but it's stopped by Logan. Here's Cleveland State in the offensive zone. They're down a man still. As Brendan Sigurdson still in the penalty box.
And for the Irish, that's still a shot you want. When you're man up for 30 seconds, it's a quick clock coming from Dobson at that angle and where he was. But just a better save by Logan.
Vikings back to full strength as Sigurdson trots back out into the field. Entenmann able to get a stick on it. Here come the Irish now on the clear. It's in the hands of Ronan Doherty. As the Irish slowly work it up the field. Now Reilly Gray has it, ready to set up the offense.
Cleveland State recovering on the substitution game. Sometimes you can get a mismatch or even have numbers, but with communication they stayed with it and kept it 6-on-6.
Here's Jack Simmons. Pat Kavanagh has it behind the cage. Notre Dame has 10 to work with, and they make it count. Simmons, streaking right down Broadway, puts it in.
Kavanagh with the dish, throwing it to where Simmons is gonna be. And then this time Simmons just quick stick, catches it with the defender on his hands, and it doesn't matter.
Halfway through the second quarter, number 3 Notre Dame has a 7-2 lead over Cleveland State from Arlotta Stadium. As we welcome you back, we take a look at head coach Andy German in his 4th season as part of this Cleveland State lacrosse program, now in its 7th year. And we mentioned earlier it's their 2nd season ever part of a conference, joined the ASUN a year ago. And when we spoke with head coach German, Brian, he talked about the importance of joining a conference. He talked about it the first 5 years was so difficult for them from a scheduling perspective. And for the game of lacrosse, just to not really have any independent teams left, he was really proud of what this program's accomplished these last few years.
Yeah, and it shows just the sport and how it's growing, especially with Cleveland State. They're one of 2 teams in the state of Ohio for lacrosse. It's them and the Buckeyes. And so it's nice seeing the sport grow, the game grow, and a team like this continue to get out there and play together.
Yeah, and he talked about having something to play for that postseason for this team is really huge and such a big motivation and recruiting factor for their program. They were winless a year ago in their first season in the ASUN, but a lot of really tough, close games where they were up at halftime and then ended up kind of fading down the stretch. But this year, a lot of returners come back with that in-game experience and different expectations for Cleveland State going forward this year. Cleveland State looking to draw back here as they're down 7-2, but that won't be an ideal possession for them. There's Griffin Westland out of the midfield. Haven't gotten a chance to call his name yet today, but really impressive in that season opener as well. Added a goal, added an assist. Now in his grad season for the Irish.
And he's a showcase of just depth at attack for Notre Dame. Not starting, seasoned guy, a veteran who's talented. And so even if one guy goes down or they're looking at different man-up opportunities, throw them on the field and they're still going to execute.
Here's Westland, ends up on the carpet, still has possession, fighting for it, and finally Cleveland State comes up with it. But they lose it on the second chance, and it's nearly put in from Reilly Gray. Flag comes up as Gray dove towards the crease. Looks like it'll be against Cleveland State.
As a goalie, these saves are difficult because the game is just unsettled. And so you're not sure just when the shot's going to come off and from that distance too. But still makes the save. Now they are going to be man down. They were able to make a couple stops so far. But when you're behind in the game, you want to avoid these situations.
Yeah, it looked to be a push from behind from Tanner Cox. And that'll result in the man-up opportunity here for Notre Dame. Here's Chris Kavanagh, lets it fly, and he capitalizes on the man up.
You don't always need plays when you're on man up. Sometimes it's just about finding space and getting in the right position. And this time Chris Kavanagh does that. No defender on him, too late for the slide to step out. And with having time and room, Logan's not going to be able to stop that one.
Really impressive what we've seen in this first half from Chris Kavanagh, now up to 2 goals and 2 assists on the afternoon. And we got a battle at midfield right now as Will Lynch ends up on the floor. And it looks like it'll be awarded to Cleveland State. Here comes Grayson Daig, junior midfielder.
So for Cleveland State, as you're looking with about 3.5 minutes left, and off of a man-up goal there for Notre Dame. Again, slow this game down. Do what you can to keep the ball in the offensive end. Win a face-off like they just did a moment ago. And try to put 1 or 2 goals in before the half comes.
Alex Van Voris tried to skip it over in search of Ryan Haigh, but didn't work out for him. Notre Dame will now take over. Just over 3 minutes left in this first half. Irish controlling an 8-2 advantage right now. Notre Dame has numbers. Here's Simmons. Sent it towards the net, but it was poked away by Cameron Logan.
The hustle by Tevlin for Notre Dame to get back into the hole and stop that transition. Notre Dame's defense today, 6-on-6, has been playing well, but if you can get D-middies who are doing that, getting back on defense, stopping that unsettled situation, it keeps this game where they only have 2 goals for the Vikings.
Yeah, Brian Tevlin, one of those impact transfers that Kevin Corrigan brought in over the offseason. He comes from Yale, spent 4 seasons there, played alongside fellow Irish transfer Chris Fake. And some great defensive play from Jose Boyer. Pokes it away. There is a possession battle still going on, as it was kind of thrown out towards midfield, and Amiri Alston able to secure it. Alston ripped a stinger directly at Entenmann, and Entenmann gets his body in front of it to stop it.
That's a big save by Entenmann. Going from high to low like that from the midi up top at Austin. And then getting down low on the opposite side of his stick side and making that save.
Under a minute to go in this second quarter as we get a timeout now from Notre Dame. And Brian, it's been a really impressive second quarter from Notre Dame, just kind of controlling all aspects of the game.
They have. Now look, first quarter they had a quick run of those goals, and we know lacrosse is a game of runs. This second quarter has been a little bit more slowed down on both sides, more possessions, but up 8-2 going into the half. With 47 seconds left on the shot clock, I'd expect Notre Dame to really hold on to it, make sure that Cleveland State does not gain possession of the ball, and see if they can make this game 9-2 at half.
Yeah, and you look at Cleveland State right now being outshot 25-13 by Notre Dame. What does Cleveland State have to do to work more shots in the offensive zone?
Well, for Notre Dame's defense in particular, they're doing a really good job communicating when they need to slide, and then also staying on the Cleveland State players' hands. So it's more so than Notre Dame giving credit to their defense and how they're playing. Now, for Cleveland State, they've had a couple of chances to get goals in transition game from a turnover onto the offensive end. And maybe when those chances are limited and when you're down, you want to take anything you can get.
Yeah, 12 turnovers for this Cleveland State team that's right now in the midst of a road trip playing their second straight top 20 team. You look at the Buckeyes, who they opened the season against, a really talented team, top 15 preseason, and then coming to South Bend to face a top 5 preseason team in Notre Dame. But this is what this program is about. Head coach German was excited for this opportunity. He said when you look at the opening games and in the offseason, you don't got to have extra motivation when you have Notre Dame, when you have Ohio State on your schedule.
That's true. With that pressure, you just want to have the preparation get going. And it really shows how you are as a team, right? With Game 1 and Game 2 opening up with teams like the Buckeyes and the Irish, for you, you get to take a chance. All right, this is where we're at skill level. This is what we can do. And this is how we can set up to the rest of the year. And what can we take away and learn from opportunities like this?
Notre Dame with the chance to really drain this clock before the halftime break. Potentially have this be the last possession of the half. Here's Pat Kavanagh behind the net. Now Dobson over to Walker. Back to Kavanagh. Up top, Dobson has it, sends it, and right into the stick of Cameron Logan. They have under 10 seconds to work with. They'll have to hustle if they want to have any chance. Heaves it down the field, and that'll be how the first half comes to a close. Really great first half for Notre Dame, but how do they keep the pressure on Cleveland State in the second half, Brian?
Really not change much. Only allowing 2 goals in the first half. Keep the same game and same momentum and strategy going, but now it's just time to produce even more on the offensive end.
Well, we have more coming up from Arlotta Stadium today. Through one half of play, it's the Irish on top. 8-2 over Cleveland State. Stick with us from South Bend.
And the saves were from all over. It could have been on the doorstep. It could have been from the outside. The spots that the shots were picked. But not only that big frame, he's able to get a stick on it and try to keep this game close. And this is, I apologize, Patrick, but this is another part of the game I want to see in the second half. How does Cleveland State and Notre Dame look at this face-off X? Is it going to be the one-on-one wins from Lynch? Is it going to be something where the wings come into play? Because if you're Cleveland State, that's going to be a tempo where you want to get those wins there and gain those possessions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A big focal point in that first half was the face-offs, and Notre Dame won by a narrow margin as that last one goes to Lynch and the Irish, able to win it over Stewart. So great to be with you today. An absolutely gorgeous Sunday afternoon from Arlotta Stadium. And we have a joy to watch. Kavanagh. Inside, Chris Kavanagh records his 3rd goal of the afternoon. Get your hats out.
When Dobson's on the outside like that, you think he's going to fire it and try to get it on net. But this time he sees his teammate Chris Kavanagh on the doorstep. And when you're in net, when a pass goes from one side of the field to the other and you have to go pipe to pipe, the timing is just difficult to make that transition and to make a stop, especially in that close from Kavanagh.
And so tremendous off-ball movement by Chris Kavanagh. Right place, right time, and Eric Dobson able to feed him.
That's a great point, Patrick. He found that open space. He snuck behind his defender, showed his stick that he was open, and scores quickly.
So it's Notre Dame that strikes early in this 3rd quarter, and Cleveland State looking to match them now on their offensive end. There's Ryan Haigh. He wears number 8 in black. Had the opening goal today for Cleveland State, but quiet since. Here comes Matthews, reigning ASUN Freshman of the Year. A preseason all-conference selection as well. Kept scoreless in that first half.
Cleveland State not forcing anything here, even with Notre Dame scoring quickly and them wanting to have some urgency to score. This time they look for an open man, but Notre Dame's defense gets the stick in the passing lane, transition the other way.
Intercepted by Brian Tevlin. Here's Notre Dame in transition. They'll back it off. Chris Kavanagh has it behind the net. Kavanagh looking for a teammate.
As an attackman, you love it when you get your defender above the net. No one's on your hands bothering you. You can survey the field. But as a defense and as a goalie, that's difficult. You don't know where they're going to throw the ball or try to get around the net.
Walker just missed a little bit wide of that pipe. Here's Quinn McCahon, grad midfielder out of Malvern, Pennsylvania. Fires off a shot and it is stopped in net from Cameron Logan.
Logan did this in the first half. There was a goal that was scored, and then the next possession he made a save. He did that again here. Quick goal in the second half, makes the save. From a confidence standpoint, that's big, making sure you're not getting down and letting others go in.
Yeah, that's now his 12th save of the afternoon. He's been all over the field in net today for Cleveland State.
Again, the Vikings not forcing anything here. Slowing it down, getting the right substitutions in.
Here's Ian McKissick being tracked by Eric Dobson. Dobson, a little bit of a playful shove, but knocks him off his feet. No whistle. Just good defense from Dobson. Now Boniface trying to get by Carter Paulette. Paulette not going to let him have it. Here's the shot now from Ryan Haigh, and Entenmann with his 4th save of the afternoon.
Again, dropping down low to make that save. And even with 4 saves so far today, Entenmann is still playing well. His body in position, when he's in the net and his body's in certain positions, that takes away angles from shooters. So having a shot like that from up top, still able to make that save, drop down low and get the ball going the other way.
Here's Jalen Seymour. Gives it off to Pat Kavanagh. Now over to Chris. Chris being double teamed as you see Cameron Logan step out of net to meet him. Gets back to his position, but it doesn't matter. Chris Kavanagh having himself a day. 4th on the afternoon.
Again, we see a Cleveland State defender caught above the net, leaving Notre Dame and attackman alone. This time it's Chris Kavanagh, though. And that shot is difficult when you're falling away from the cage and you have to turn your body backwards. You have to get momentum and enough of it to get it by Logan while having someone on you. Doesn't matter, though. Still buries it.
Yeah, you look at the numbers this season for Chris Kavanagh. I mean, my goodness. 9th goal through 2 games. When you look at him a year ago, 22 games produced during his freshman season, 33 points overall. Already on a pretty good pace, Brian. Definitely to outdo it, as we talked about that potential sophomore breakout season for Chris Kavanagh. That's what Pat Kavanagh did when he joined this program. It was a solid freshman year for Pat, but it was cut short during COVID. And then he came back his sophomore year, and he was a Tewaaraton finalist. Chris Kavanagh wants to replicate that success for sure.
And the way he's playing, I'm sure he will. And it could even be this year, too. And Ricciardelli being a sophomore in Notre Dame's attack, another one that's up and coming.
Michael Kerr goes hard to cage, but Entenmann comes out to stop him, and he wins the battle of 44s. McCann gets by a defender, look to drop it off to Ricciardelli. McCann gets it back, and it's in the back of the net. That's how you make it count 2nd time around. Quinn McCann with the score.
And Patrick, that's exactly why it's dangerous for a Kavanagh brother like Chris here to be behind the net with no one on his hands. He can just stand there and see who's open. And this time it's McCann where he puts his name now in the goal column. And the feed comes from X. And really, for Logan, when it's one-on-one like that and no defender to get out on him, puts it right over his head.
There's Quinn McCann getting on the scoreboard today. He had a goal in the season opener, adds a goal today against Cleveland State. Notre Dame wants to run again. Not taking a beat to give this Cleveland State defense a rest. That time Cameron Logan did get a stick on it.
Again, Logan with the answer, right? One goes in, he makes the next save. That just shows his mental toughness.
Here's Eric Dobson, a little bouncer, and it finds the left bottom corner.
When Dobson has a short stick on him, he should have the green light to go every time. And this time he goes down the right alley. Once he has a step or two on his defender, he can come back to that dominant hand and increase his angle by bringing it back to his left hand. And makes it for the 12th goal today.
Eric Dobson kept quiet today, a little bit by his standards, but he gets his first goal of the afternoon. And he's coming off a year where he was third on Notre Dame with 32 points total, 22 goals, 10 assists for the All-ACC team selection last year. Looking to build off that now in his junior season. Matthews gives it off to Austin. Back to DeDonatis. Now Matthews has it. You can see the attention Matthews draws from this Notre Dame defense. Right now Carter Paulette putting the pressure on him.
But they've kept him under control the whole game. And it's not just a one-on-one play. It's a defensive unit and communicating and knowing if you need to slide, if you don't. Getting him in Matthews into positions where he isn't comfortable or he doesn't like to shoot from.
That was a good look from Amiri Alston, and now Cleveland State has just about 10 seconds to work with here off the miss. Matthews spinning, dishing, but it's intercepted. Will Donovan steps up and takes it away.
Another time this half where the defense for the Irish just knocks down a pass. That's why you have your stick in the passing lanes, causing those turnovers.
Kavanagh dishing. Pat Kavanagh behind the back. Couldn't get it that time.
Went around the world the first half. This time trying to go behind the back. And you know what? From that angle, that actually is the best shot to put the ball in the net. If he kept it on the normal side there, he wouldn't have had enough room or angle to finish it.
There's Pat Kavanagh. Gives it off to Chris. Chris stops. Here's Jalen Seymour, sophomore out of Melville, New York. Seymour off the jump stop. Got high in the air to release that one, but it was poked away in net from Cameron Logan. And that'll be a shot clock reset for the Irish. Notre Dame now up to a double-digit goal lead, looking to build off that. And here's Jack Simmons. Simmons had a cutting Pat Kavanagh, but just left it a bit high.
Still the right look, but I believe Pat Kavanagh had a defender on his hands. And so when it's not a clean opportunity to gather the ball, it can be an errant pass.
Intercepted from Tevlin right there. Tried to get it up ahead to Simmons, but couldn't connect with him. Here's Shane Tesler, sophomore midfielder out of Ackworth, Georgia. Played in 7 games last year. Been coming off the bench so far for Coach German and the Cleveland State Vikings.
So while the Vikings are going to get a clear on the stat sheet, that pass from Logan to find a midfielder like that, I mean, it's not just showing what you can do inside the net and make stops. Now you're showing how you can get the ball going in transition. You can push it the other way. The accuracy, that's a tough pass, but he made it.
Yeah, he's an athlete. That's something that came up in conversation with head coach German. 6'5" frame, but he can move back there and that's for sure been on display today. Good move. Here's the shot. Top corner, top shelf. There's a strike from Ian McKissick, and it brings Cleveland State back to 3. Notre Dame's up 12-3, though. Here's Cleveland State trying to make a push. We'll take a quick break from Arlotta. We're midway through the third quarter from Arlotta Stadium. Here's what we've seen so far. Shots on goal. Notre Dame's been dominant in that category and has them up to a 12-3 lead.
Notre Dame's shots overall is 35, and so 26 of those being on cage. The accuracy has stepped up for them from game 1 to game 2. And then today they've gone on 2 different runs of 4 goals. 4 goals in the first quarter, and then here in the third quarter start off with 4 goals. It's a game of runs, and this shows what can happen when the team gets going. Yeah, and you look at the Kavanagh brothers. We've used that name a lot, Kavanagh, but all the reason why the two of them impressive as it gets today. And showing some flair, too, having some fun. So not just scoring, typical from an attackman. You're not just dodging and scoring. You're really picking up ground balls behind the back, around the world, doing it all.
Yeah, the two of them building a legacy here at Notre Dame that was left by their older brother, Matt Kavanagh, an All-American during his time here with the Irish. As that face-off once again won by Will Lynch. Sophomore face-off man out of Rockville Center, New York, having a good day at the X so far. Really excelled in the opener against Marquette. Curling. Here's McCann, spins, scores! Textbook score right there from Quinn McCann, and it has Notre Dame back up to a 10-goal lead.
When you have a midi who's a strong dodger and you bring them behind the net for a 2-man game, it just makes it incredibly difficult for defense to know how to stop it. Slide doesn't necessarily come. McCann stops, switches to his left hand, away from the defender. Enough space to shoot it, and puts it far side.
Third goal on the year for Quinn McCann.
Goal is second of the afternoon, scored by number 15, Quinn McCann.
Back in the X, it's Lynch against Stewart. Cleveland State got a stick on it. That was Connor Swagerman. And they will end up coming up with that face-off victory.
And if you look at the face-off numbers from today, it is relatively even on both sides. But the fact that the scoreboard reflects 13-3, it just shows what Notre Dame, even if not getting those possessions immediately, how their offense can just produce goals at any moment.
Austin splits the double, and here's now Cleveland State in the offensive zone. Matthews gets by Harris, fires off a shot. Looks like it was on frame. I think Entenmann might have got a touch.
He may have, but Matthews wants that one back. He knows he can bury it, and that's a high percentage shot for him.
So shot clock will stay where it is. He dotted a spin move, and the pass is intercepted. You look at Liam Entenmann, able to stand tall right there and step in the way. Bit of a sloppy turnover right there on Notre Dame's clear attempt.
It looked like Napolitano wanted to get his body in front of it with that pass coming cross field and just wasn't able to.
So it'll be a timeout taken by Notre Dame. Brian, so far this quarter, Notre Dame outscoring Cleveland State 5-1.
And if you look at saves for Logan, only 2 this quarter. So the first half, you saw the ball a little bit more, was tracking it better, but the shots just continued to be fired towards him, and he can only do so much to bring this team and keep this team in the game.
Yeah, and on the other side for Notre Dame, Liam Entenmann, he's up to 5 saves, has faced 19 shots, 8 of them on goal. And you see the highlights from him. He's really just been all over the place in net.
And he's not just making these saves, but also stopping passes going from across the field. And as a goalie, that's something you got to do. You're not just there to stop the ball. If there's chances of passes you can deflect, get your stick on it, or even catch it, that's what you should do.
Yeah, and that last one really impressive as Michael Kerr made a charge towards the cage, and Entenmann there to stop him almost like a football player. And he's got a big frame as well. We talked about Cameron Logan's big presence in net, but Entenmann now in his senior season, listed at 6'3", near 200 pounds, and just a really athletic goalkeeper.
You combine his athleticism with his lacrosse IQ, with his seniority now, there's a reason why he's looked at someone as one of the best goalies in the country.
Yeah, the number 1 ranked goalie in the class of 2019 out of Chaminade High School, and has lived up to the high expectations that were thrown at him as a freshman. Has become, if not the best, one of the best goalies in the ACC. He's going to have a tough task, especially when Notre Dame gets into some of the top competition they have scheduled for later this year. You look at teams like Virginia, Duke as part of that conference that have been off to good starts, and they're going to give Entenmann fits, but Entenmann really challenged himself this offseason, and so far has been playing at a high level against Marquette and now Cleveland State today.
One thing about Notre Dame's defense is they're not always going to be the team that will cause turnovers, especially on the individual one-on-one play, but they play sound and together. They do not let the offensive teams get in a solid position to score, and even a shot like that shows it. Falling away from the net, slows down the speed, and Entenmann stops it.
Yeah, that last shot from Benedict Sigurdson, one of the leaders on this Cleveland State attack, that is, coming off a career-tying 3 goals against Ohio State the other day. Good moves from Matthews in the midfield. Cleveland State looking to gain one back here. Back over to Matthews, who makes a move, gets free, lets it fly, and it's in off the bounce. There's what Gannon Matthews can do.
It was a matter of time before he was going to put the ball in the net. This time with the stutter step, fakes to his left, comes back right, and that separation's created where when you're at that top center of the goal, you can go on either side. Slide comes late, and he finishes it low.
Yeah, there's a reason he was the best offensive freshman in the A-Sun a year ago. Had 19 goals and 15 assists for the Vikings last season. And that'll be his 4th goal on the season after a hat trick in the season opener against the Buckeyes.
As this third quarter's winding down, again, the shot clock has a little over 60 on it. The game clock's not too far off. Especially with the Vikings scoring, Notre Dame will most likely try to slow it down and get the last shot in possession of this quarter.
Here goes Jack Simmons. He's got a wide open lane. He'll try to dish to Ricciardelli, but there's the stick of Logan stepping in that passing lane.
Entenmann snags one on the other end. This time Logan does the same.
Costly turnover in the midfield. That'll give Notre Dame a chance to close this third quarter out with a goal.
Yeah, that last time, even though Notre Dame didn't slow the ball down, they had just a nice opportunity to attack the net. No slide really came out.
McCahon got shoved before he got the shot off, regains his footing, keeps the possession alive for Notre Dame, and he's right in front. Got the shot off, but it looks to have hit the crossbar. McCahon says, "He can't stop me one more." After 3 straight opportunities for Quinn McCahon, finally he puts it home, and it's got Notre Dame back up to a 10-goal lead.
McCahon showing his range from distance. Has enough time and room to really plant his feet, wind up, and when he changes the planes from high to low like that, it just is tough for Logan to make the save, and he gets another one today.
Second goal of the afternoon for Quinn McCahon. Or excuse me, third goal that is. So Quinn McCahon, really impressive, especially in this third quarter. Final few seconds of the third quarter. Swim move, Kavanagh. Oh, almost had the finish as well. But that'll be how the third quarter comes to a close. We got one more quarter of play. Notre Dame looking to close this game out over Cleveland State. Stick with us. We'll have fourth quarter coming up next from Arlotta. It's a little bit of a breeze today in northern Indiana, but a beautiful afternoon nonetheless, and it is made for fantastic viewing from Arlotta Stadium. As we take a look at some of the headlines around the ACC, you see the strength of the conference this year with 5 teams ranked inside the top 20, and Syracuse having themselves a good start to the season, dropped a close one against Maryland yesterday, but then you look at UVA as well, earning Defensive Player of the Week, and North Carolina, how about a big victory over Hopkins the other day?
Another top 10 upset, but the ACC is a gauntlet, and a team like Syracuse, if you look at them from last year to this year, already making moves and producing on the field the way they are, having a couple of players in this position like Spolina and Salad, it's another level that the ACC continues to get better and continues to strengthen really the quality of lacrosse play.
Yeah, Cuse out to a 3-1 start this year, looking to challenge and potentially make a run up against some of the top competition in the ACC. Syracuse picked to finish last in the conference, but again, you look at the competition, Duke, UNC, Notre Dame picked at number 2, right behind number 1 UVA. It's going to be a fun season for sure around the ACC, always is, and looking forward to how these teams fare against each other come late March, come April, and come tournament time.
For the ACC, it's almost going through 2 tournaments in the sense of quality of play, right? At the end of the year, that's a conference tournament with some of the best teams, and then obviously the actual NCAA tournament overall. So the start of the season can be one thing, but the end is a whole other ballgame.
And Notre Dame's coming off a year when they went 5-1 in conference play. They won 6 straight games to close out the season, and that's a big reason why Eric Dobson, he's a guy who finished off 2022 hot, and he's picking up where he left off now in 2023.
Dobson's just too big to have a short stick on him. It doesn't matter if a defender gets on his body, he can still get around him. And with that lefty dominant hand and no slide there, it's just too much for Logan to make the stop.
Eric Dobson, really a player who impressed Kevin Corrigan in the offseason. Obviously, we know the talent is there. We know the physical attributes are there. But Kevin Corrigan said he's no longer a one-trick pony. He doesn't just try to beat you off, plays like that. But he has so many tools now in his bag when it comes to scoring and just, general ball movement and assist ability out of the midfield.
For sure the first year or two, he's someone that was shooting from the outside, got his feet planted, and would just have a rocket of a shot. But now, today, he's dodging. And when you don't have either a long pull on him or a quick slide coming to stop him, he's going to score.
Yeah, you're already seeing some of those improvements from Dobson on display today. Kavanagh cutting, trying to get flashy once again. That time, Cleveland State was all over it before the shot got loose. There's Reilly. Gray gives it off to Ricciardelli, who's been quiet after he had a career opening day. Here's Pat Kavanagh, though. From deep. Kavanagh showing he can get it done all over the field.
You don't see Kavanagh up top much. He's usually dodging from behind the cage. And then this time, Berkey, who's guarding him, just stands there, and he doesn't really contest Kavanagh. And so Kavanagh pauses, he looks, and decides just to shoot.
Second goal in as many games for Kavanagh, but a bit misleading with all the assists he's put up. 5 assists today, 6 assists last game. And that's got his point total well into double digits as we're only in the second game of this young season. So Notre Dame really has taken control this second half. They were outscoring Cleveland State 9-3. Shot came from Dobson, but it was high.
And you see the Irish sticking with their first line middies in attack. Because it's early on, I'm sure Coach wants to give them reps and give them opportunities just like this for Dobson to dodge again and get in his rhythm and finishing it.
Another goal from Dobson. Really coming alive this second half.
The Vikings just don't have an answer for him right now. And you can see why. Catches it on the run this time, handles some of that contact, and the placement of that shot, hugging that far side post and burying it.
Dobson, he's got a hat trick today. Really doing a great job getting free offensively as we get a timeout. So we'll be back. Notre Dame is taking control of this one, 17-4. We got 12 minutes of play left from Arlotta coming up after this. Well, Eric Dobson has caught fire as of late. Here's how his 3 goals have looked today.
He had a slower first half, but this second half, getting that hat trick and doing it in a variety of ways and showing it's not always about how you start the game, but focusing how you finish it too.
3 straight hat tricks to close out 2022 for Dobson. And now back to that caliber of play against Cleveland State today. And you mentioned it, Brian. Yeah, first half was a little bit slower for Eric Dobson. Didn't get as many looks as he's used to, but the second half, he's taken full advantage of every look he's gotten.
The team really is overall 45 shots on the day. Game 1 for the Irish, they had a little over 50. And when you have that many shots, especially if you have accuracy to get them on net, it makes your opponents just that tougher to stop you.
Here goes Simmons. He'll stop. Now Chris Kavanagh has it. Touch over to Reilly. Gray. And Gray has a score now.
Notre Dame's looking to match the amount of goals they had just on Wednesday. Another one on the board this time for Gray. First half, it was on the doorstep. This time, left hand down the alley. and scores the 18th goal for the Irish.
You see the season Reilly Gray is having. One of those key members of the second midfield unit for Notre Dame. But gets just about as play time as a starter would, and he's making it count. He's got 2 goals today to go along with 1 back in the season opener.
And if you're Cleveland State here on out, you want to focus on finishing this game strong too. You've had a couple of defensive laps there where Notre Dame is scoring some goals. Now it's about, okay, look, 18-4 game. This is one that we might not be able to come back in, but how do we start working on some things that are going to help us look good, not just now, but as we get into next week's opponent too.
Here's Parker a year ago. Gives it off to Kerr. Now Sigurdson has a touch, goes hard to the cage, and he slots it in right past the stick of Entenmann.
Matthews was quiet for the Vikings for a little, and he scored. Now this time Sigurdson, and we know him as a lefty dominant hand and a big body too, but gets back to his right hand, and with Entenmann just off of that near side pipe, Sigurdson finds space to score.
Had a hat trick first game against Ohio State, building off that today now with his latest score to make it 4 on the season. Sigurdson now in his senior season, comes from Milford, Ohio. One of the leaders of this Cleveland State offense. He's been described by his teammates as a quiet leader, one of those players who's really smart, loves to see the game, but such a high IQ, and you see it on display with that last goal. Here's Cleveland State back for more. They'll have a chance, and that one nearly got in. I think Entenmann got a stick on it just a few inches ahead of that goal line. Notre Dame on the clear, loses it in the midfield. There's a fight for possession. It was Ridge Johnson who lost it. Here comes Matthews, beats Harris. Instead, he'll give it off. Good move inside, and it's finished off by Whit Stopak. Make that 2 straight goals for the Vikings, and they got a little momentum now on their sideline.
Again, the same shot for Entenmann to really stop, right? It's coming down the alley, it's close to the net, and it's finishing on that near side pipe. So for Entenmann, or actually that went low on far side, excuse me. So for Entenmann, though, back-to-back goals for the Vikings. But at that angle, it's just tough to make a stop that close, especially if he's able to get his stick back to that right side.
Yeah, Whit Stopak, scorer of the last goal for Cleveland State, the senior out of North Canton, Ohio, actually transferred into the program this year after spending 2 seasons at Hofstra and another one at Ohio Wesleyan. So starting to get his footing with this new offense as a shot comes there for Ryan Haigh, following another face-off victory for the Vikings. And with that, we'll get a timeout now from Kevin Corrigan. Just over 9 minutes left to go in this 4th quarter. 2 straight goals come from Cleveland State to make this one 18-6 now, Brian.
And actually a moment ago, I misspoke saying Sigurdson was a dominant lefty. He just looks like he can since he goes both hands, both righty and lefty. But either way, he gets on the board. And so, as I mentioned a moment ago with the Vikings, you want to make sure that you're just continuing to work on the things to finish this game strong, to put some in the net, gain some of that confidence, and really start saying, okay, here's where we are today. How do we go forward?
Yeah, you bring up a good point with that, and this team's starting to gain some momentum now in this 4th quarter. When you look at the ASUN at large, this is a Cleveland State team that was picked to finish 7th out of 10 teams in the preseason poll. And a lot of really talented teams across the conference, especially at the top with teams like Utah, teams like Jacksonville, both kind of finding themselves ranked within the top 20 of the country at different points. But Cleveland State, they're not going to open conference play until March 18th when they take on Lindenwood, but a lot to build off for this team in year 2 of a conference.
And the point you made earlier, Patrick, how Coach German likes the idea that, hey, now we're no longer independent. We are in a conference. That also shows that, hey, we want to make sure we take care of business in conference. We win our conference, which is that automatic bid towards the end of the year.
And not to mention some other really good opponents. Look at Air Force, Robert Morris, and with the schedule that Cleveland State has this year, they're going to be taking on all 9 of those teams in conference. So they'll get to see everybody and hoping to make a charge in the conference tournament as well.
And back to that conference, Jacksonville's one of those teams that will sneak up on you too. Past few years, they've really exploded and put themselves on the scene. And so no surprise that they're the second-ranked team right now in that conference.
Oh yeah, not to mention a victory over Duke the other day early in the season. So a really talented team that's gotten in the heads of some of these ACC programs as well, following that win over Duke. So we get a goalkeeper switch for Notre Dame. Liam Entenmann will take a break, and in steps Alex Zepp, sophomore from Mineola, New York, also a Chaminade product, had the chance to work behind Entenmann in high school, now has the same chance to learn from him at the collegiate level. Here comes Amiri Alston. Leaves it off. Sigurdson being challenged. He'll dish. Ryan Haigh has a look. Let it sail on him, though. Ryan Haigh scoreless ever since he dropped in that opening goal today for Cleveland State. We mentioned he's a senior heading to the National Lacrosse League next year, but here on the attack for Cleveland State with Stopak, 2 in a row for him.
Stopak having a short stick on him, and every time an attackman that happens, you're going to the net. And you could see, actually, as he's coming from behind, and just as he goes above GLE, he fakes for a moment to get the goalie off of that near side pipe, and then gets his second today.
Cleveland State with 3 straight to make it an 18-7 game now, and they're hungry for more. Another face-off victory for the Vikings. Matthews beats his defender. Leave it off for Sigurdson behind the cage. Tried to pass it out. Was bobbled. And now they'll regain possession as Jacob Lubrin has it. Fires off a shot. It's left wide.
They had numbers for a moment, and so when no one steps out, or if they step out late to the person coming down from transition there, you could always bury those shots, but sent it wide.
Matthews once again able to beat his defender off the jump. And now he finds Haigh, who is double teamed. Clobbered in the middle. We do get a flag. And that'll be a penalty coming up against Ross Bergmaster, most likely.
As always, you like guys who are eager to make plays, but this time just catches them on the helmet. Easy call for the ref there. Man up now for the Vikings.
So slashing against Bergmaster. He'll be sidelined for the next 50 seconds or so. And here's an opportunity for Cleveland State to cut it to 10 now. They've scored 3 straight. That was Sigurdson with a rocket, but didn't have the angle he was looking for. Good dish inside, but an even better stop by the goalie. That was a fantastic look for Gavin held. He was just about inside the crease, and Alex Zepp said, "Don't come in my house." Had him knocking on the doorstep, but he couldn't enter.
Zepp's just stepping in, and he's seeing shots from doorsteps a lot, especially on man up there, and makes a save.
A wide open opportunity, but it stopped. Emmett Barger had a good look, and Cam Logan still in goal, able to stop that one once again.
And for Notre Dame, what's good for a game like this, up 18-7, second game of the season, you can rotate players in and get in-game experience for folks.
Good shot from Matthews, got a look. Did hit the post, so we do get a reset.
Cleveland State patient, not forcing anything right now. Looking for the right shot.
Here's Matthews showing that patience, as you mentioned. Now Haigh gets a look. That's a launcher from way downtown. Ryan Haigh, not many can do it, but with his talent, able to slot it in perfectly.
The skip pass comes, and this time Haigh just has no one on him. His defender sloughed back into the center of the field, maybe for some help defense. So now he has time and room, no one on his hands, and finishes it.
His second goal of the day for Ryan Haigh. He's been really impressive so far this season, picking up on a really successful season a year ago for this Cleveland State team. As we'll take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Vikings. We mentioned they won't be starting conference play for quite some time, but an opportunity in these early season games really to get themselves in the right direction. Again, we talked about all the good programs they're going to play this season. Another one of those is Michigan.
And combining that with on the road, right? So they're not just having these home games, they're playing some top talent on the road. And Michigan is a team, another Midwest school who's up and coming. Detroit Mercy follows it. And so for Cleveland State, you look at today, you get back and watch some of the film, you see, okay, how do we now prep? What could we have done better going into these next games?
And on the other side, here's what Notre Dame has coming up. They'll be heading on the road for the first time this season to take on Georgetown next week. And that's an interesting game because Georgetown's 0-2, but they were a preseason top 5 team. They have all the talent in the country. Almost a similar start to what Notre Dame dealt with a year ago when they started 1-4. Georgetown's going to be hungry come next week.
That's true. And last year, Notre Dame hosted both Georgetown and Maryland here at Arlotta Stadium. Now they're on the road playing these two teams. Georgetown's going to be hungry for a win. And then Notre Dame, after they face those two teams, going with Ohio State and hosting them, which was another tough game for the Irish last year.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier for Kevin Corrigan's squad. They got a tough schedule like they do every year. They're battle-tested and looking to finish this one off today the right way against the Vikings as they're holding on to a 10-goal lead just under 5 minutes to go now.
And Patrick, you said battle-tested. I mean, Maryland, Georgetown, and Ohio State all not in the ACC. Michigan after that, too. So Notre Dame does not shy away from playing the best teams.
And they're really trying to have a good out-of-conference slate this season after struggling a little bit out of conference early last season. Went 2-4 in their first 6 games. Big reason why they were kept off the NCAA tournament selection committee come selection day. Just missing that NCAA tournament berth.
And you know that's in the back of the mind of these players. Last year feeling like they earned it. And then they have a lot of the returners from last season back this year to make another run.
That one looked to be poked away by Bergmaster on the shot from Lubrant. Here's Wurtelman. Gives it back to Zapp. Notre Dame's trying to work it out into the offensive side of the field. They took just a little bit too long to do so.
I was just about to say, the riding game there for the Vikings did not allow Notre Dame to advance. Did a nice job of just making the field shorter in the center of the field so Notre Dame could not get it across the midline.
Here's Gannon Matthews, fakes the pass, gets by his defender. We'll give it off to Stopak. One more pass over to Kerr. Good movement offensively from the Vikings. Austin has it at the top. He'll dish it over to Matthews. Couldn't quite corral it. And now Wurtelman and the Irish have it.
Notre Dame's defense showing a quick double team, knocking down a pass there again. They've played solid all day as a unit, just coming together, communicating well, sliding when they need to. And then obviously, having 8 goals here today, but in that first half, only 2. They came out strong.
Fulton Bayman gives it off. Westland has it. Now Michael Lynch, newly entered into the game. He'll drive. Lost control on the shot, sailed it a bit high. Still about 33 seconds here for Notre Dame to work with. Here's Emmett Barger, senior out of Keswick, Virginia.
Moving screen, so ball's going the other way now.
Yeah, unforced error right there as Notre Dame commits the turnover. We're just under 2 minutes now. So before this one comes to a close, we'll have one final timeout. Notre Dame holding on to a 10-goal lead. And it's been a really impressive showing from this number 3 ranked Irish team. As we'll take a look at some of the headlines across the country. We talked about all these upsets. Georgetown, one of those teams. Jacksonville, also a member of the ASUN, making some noise. And how about the Loyola Greyhounds? Big win against Maryland last week, and then yesterday they go and beat up on Johns Hopkins. And the Ivy League teams now in play. They're one of those conferences that waited longer to start the season, but now getting going. And you look at Logan McNanny of Maryland, the defending champs, out for the season. Going to be a tough loss for them, but they still have all the talent in the world to make another run.
I remember McNaney coming here last year and putting on a great performance. So for the Terrapins, that is going to be a difficult loss, but that's another team with depth. And so while he's out, I'm sure next man up is going to be strong. And then if you look at the Ivy League, you mentioned them too. Last year, a lot of those teams made it into the tournament. and then this year having a strong start.
And Brian, this Notre Dame team, we talk about the talent, depth, a little bit of a concern going into the preseason for Kevin Corrigan, but starting to see a lot of players, a part of the second and third line, especially in the midfield and attacking unit, make some noise. But how do they put it all together this season?
Well, this is one of the strongest offensive sides of the ball for Coach Corrigan in a long time. If you think about from the midi position and then attack, the talent that's there, how they're playing together these first two games, the assists are there, which means they're looking for their teammates. They're finding their open man. And when you play as a team together as opposed to just one-on-one, that just shows more than what you're able to do on the field, but the culture of the team as well.
Here's Cleveland State back on the attack. Looking to make some final noise here to close out this one. Here's Parker Yeargo on the charge, loses it, picked up by Kerr. Now Van Voorhis has a touch, fires off his shot. Looked to have hit off the knee of Alex Zepf. As there's a tie-up near the crease, possession will stay with Cleveland State.
I was thinking the Vikings were going to have back-to-back weeks of double-digit goals, too. With Ohio State, they had a strong second half. And here today, with a couple minutes left, I thought they were going to be able to do the same thing.
As we get a turnover from the Vikings, we mentioned Notre Dame made a switching goal with Alex Zepf coming in. Cleveland State doing the same. Justin Dallum will come in net for the Vikings to close out this fourth quarter. We'll see if he can get a stop. Final possession most likely is coming up from Notre Dame here, as Marco Napolitano works through the midfield. And a great atmosphere inside Arlotta Stadium today. Notre Dame, we mentioned, opened their season at home, but did so inside the warmth of Loftus Sports Center indoors. But today, with a beautiful Sunday on deck, got the chance to play some outdoor lacrosse, and it'll result in a big-time victory for Notre Dame. Make that 8th straight wins dating back to last season. And Brian, it was a game Notre Dame came out early offensively, but then controlled it the rest of the way.
And they finished strong, too. 10 goals in the second half. Back-to-back wins for the Irish to show that they're ready for this season.
Yeah, it was a good one from South Bend today. We thank you for joining us. For my broadcast partner, Brian Benedict, and everyone involved in the production of this ACC Network Extra broadcast, we thank you for joining us. Your final score from Arlotta Stadium: number 3 Notre Dame 18, Cleveland State 8. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.